Hey, welcome back to Video Shaman. I'm your host, Alex Lipton, and today I thought I'd talk about something that's been very fascinating to me for quite some time and really been wanting to share this with people because I know that not everybody's aware of this. You see, I've been very much fascinated with ancient civilizations for at least 10 years at this point. The concept of Atlantis was the first thing that really just sent me down the rabbit hole because, I don't know, I just felt this calling to just discover and learn more about it. Discover Atlantis, right? Yeah, let's go under the sea because that's where Atlantis is supposed to be. Under the sea is where Atlantis is supposed to be. I like that rhyme. Atlantis has been a taboo subject for many, many, many years. Anyone that really brings up Atlantis, you get thrown into the same category as something like, oh, you believe in aliens. Hey, but side note, aliens is not so controversial anymore. Just watch the news. I'm sure all you people are seeing the crazy information that's being disclosed right now or about to be disclosed. Apparently in June, there's going to be an actual disclosure about UFOs from the Pentagon. 10 years ago, this was absolutely insane. These were just crazy conspiracy theorists or UFO people. It was, oh, you're just into aliens. We could throw all that away. Well, it turns out that's not so controversial anymore, which brings me back to the lost civilizations, because Atlantis is another one of these conspiracy theory type things that people have been easily able to dismiss because mainstream does not support it. We actually don't have to talk about Atlantis and this lost civilization that was swallowed up by the sea in the story that was told in Plato's Timaeus and Critias thousands of years ago. We're actually going to talk about something that's much more of a modern, actual archaeological discovery. It's called Gobekli Tepe. Gobekli Tepe is an archaeological site that was first discovered in the early 1960s. However, it wasn't really truly excavated for decades after that. It wasn't until the 1990s, I think it was actually 1994, an archaeologist by the name of Klaus Schmidt started to uncover this site, which Gobekli Tepe actually translates roughly to pot-bellied hill. Now, this was like a big hill, and where is Gobekli Tepe? It's actually in the region of southeast Turkey, right near the Syrian border. So for a long time, this is just a big hill that really no one paid attention to. But as they started to dig under this hill, they started to find out that there was this massive structure buried underneath it. What makes Gobekli Tepe so relevant right now and so important and worth taking the time to look into? Gobekli Tepe is a site that is over 13,000 years old. This predates the construction of Stonehenge. It honestly, what it really does and what makes this so important to look at is that it completely changes our understanding of early civilization, the origin of civilization, because civilization supposedly started around 5,000 to 6,000 BC. Gobekli Tepe predates all that by thousands and thousands of years, and archaeology history even has been on this very rigid timeline, a very specific development of a very primitive hunter-gatherer culture slowly coming into community and then eventually coming into a place where they could actually do agriculture, and they stopped having to go and hunt and gather and all that stuff. However, Gobekli Tepe just completely pulls the rug out from that entire situation because it shows a giant megalithic construction site. Now, this is like Stonehenge, like megalithic with these big, huge rocks, right? But what makes this megalithic site so interesting also is that there's these reliefs and these carvings that have been put into the rock, and actually not carved into the rock, but the rock has almost been carved out away, revealing a 3D kind of image of animals and plants and all sorts of stuff. Another interesting fact about Gobekli Tepe is that this site is not even fully excavated yet. It's a very small percentage. Apparently, there's over 50% of it that still needs to be discovered. Unfortunately, Gobekli Tepe is in a region that is not exactly the safest place to do archaeology because of all of the religious turmoil, because of the wars and everything like that. Some people, like the famous pronounced skeptic Michael Shermer, would just say, well, you know what? I guess we were wrong about hunter-gatherers. But this is a total cop-out, because before Gobekli Tepe was discovered, there was no possible way that something like this could have existed at the time. And hunter-gatherers have always been kind of seen as primitive people because they didn't really have the knowledge base or the skills or the awareness to do something such as even agriculture, let alone megalithic construction. What makes Gobekli Tepe so interesting to me is that it takes all of the mythology and the weird taboo stuff that surrounds ancient civilizations, and it puts it right up in front of us and says, actually, no, here is evidence that something big was going on way before we thought there ever could possibly be. Another thing to point out is that Gobekli Tepe, the way that they were able to actually determine the age of this site is by carbon dating the rocks and the sediment and the dirt that actually surrounded these megalithic rocks, right? These big giant stones that are shaped like giant T's. And another side note is that these T-like structures have been found all over the world, in places even as far as Mesoamerica. So what the hell is really going on here? The whole idea of civilization starting from one place and just moving out around 6,000 years ago, not really holding up to the evidence that is really coming to the surface at this point. The way they were able to carbon date it was checking all of the stuff that was surrounding these big blocks. And when they did this, they realized that Gobekli Tepe was not covered up by accident over like long periods of time due to erosion and storms, and it didn't just get covered up like the Sphinx in Egypt by sand over long periods of time. Gobekli Tepe was intentionally buried. What the hell does that mean? Why would people back then build something like that and then bury it? It's a complete mystery. No one really knows why this is the case. I think there's a lot more to learn about Gobekli Tepe going forward. The moment that we start to actually open up our minds and see that maybe the story that we've come to know is not really the way it is. And we need to start reevaluating the whole form of history here. I highly recommend that you start looking up Gobekli Tepe because this completely changes our whole understanding of history. Hey, it might just be like UFOs. 10 years ago, UFOs, crazy idea. Ancient civilizations beyond the time of the early Mesoamerican and the Mesopotamian mother cultures and all that stuff, oh, that's crazy too. Well, maybe it's not. Definitely look into Gobekli Tepe. I just wanted to share with you my excitement and passion for why this is so important to me, because ancient civilizations are the key to our evolution, I think, because if we want to know where we're going, if we want to be able to come out of the crisis that we're in right now and have a positive future, we need to be able to learn from the past. And if we can't even remember the full scope of our past, then how are we expected to learn and go into the future? I do believe there's a lost chapter in human civilization that predates Mesopotamia and all that stuff, and it might have something to do with the end of the Ice Age. It's just a really interesting thing to ponder that all of the mythology and stuff that we've always seen to be kind of fables and metaphors of who we are and where we came from actually might have some grounded truth to it. So I'm really excited to see how science and mythology and our ancient native indigenous cultures around the world, what they tell us how we got here, could come together with science right now and really bridge the gap. Hey, it could happen. And you know what? It's happening right now. So again, thank you for coming to Video Shaman. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, definitely leave them in the description box below. If you want, you can like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and thank you. Look into Gobekli Tepe. I'm telling you, there's some crazy shit going on there. All right, take care.